One of the angles that has indeed been a very big story, but has actually not been explored on the YouTube channel at all until now, has been the Keith Yandle situation. Now, Keith Yandle is indeed one of the names who is carving himself into NHL history, because as a 34-year-old left-handed 6'1", 192-pound defenseman who had established himself as one of the more lethal offensive defensemen over the past decade, Yandle was in a pretty peculiar spot with the Florida Panthers a few days ago. Now, if you're not up to date, Keith Yandle currently has one of the longest Iron Man streaks in NHL history. If we go over and check out the Wikipedia page for NHL Iron Man streak, because there actually is a Wikipedia page for that, taking a look at it, Keith Yandle currently has the 4th longest streak, and it's active. It's the longest active one. He passed a whole bunch of other guys like Henrik Sedin and Andrew Cogliano, who had their streaks end earlier this decade. But along with Marlowe and Phil Kessel, Yandle is up there as one of the top Ironman of all time. However, earlier this week, we had ourselves word that the Florida Panthers might just put an end to that streak, not because Yandle is going to get traded and he's going to have to miss a game because of quarantine or whatever, but because he was skating with Group B and they just didn't like what they saw out of him. Now, Yandle, over the past decade and a half, has been one of the better offensive defensemen in the league. He had a season high of 62 points 2 years ago in 2019. By the way, can you believe 2019 was 2 years ago? That's crazy. 62 points, 82 games played, very good numbers for an offensive defenseman. Although he was a -17, you could look past that because, hey, the guy is getting so many gosh darn points. And last year he had 45 points in 69 games played and was just under a point per game in the playoffs. On TSN Insider Trading a few days ago, Frank Seravalli said that the Panthers told Yandle that he was not in their plans this season. This seems to be a mere personnel choice for Florida and new GM Bill Zito, as Seravalli reported that he had highly fallen out of favor. Now that was a few days ago, a week ago actually, and things are a little bit different now. But back when this statement was made, Keith Yandle, a guy with a very big contract, we're not going to discredit that for sure, $6.35 million AAV until 2023, he'll be 36 when the contract expires. He was a guy who a lot of people were like, okay, why is he doing this? This is a weird transaction here. He's a good, offensively productive player. He doesn't do anything defensively, we know that, but he's still out there scoring points, and the Panthers were in a spot where they really wanted to trade him. Well, it turns out he actually didn't get traded, and in fact, he actually played too. He came out here and he scored a goal in the first game back for the Florida Panthers, and he celebrated like it was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, as quoted here by Pierre LeBrun. It was his 100th goal of all time, and it came over here in a circumstance that saw him beat all odds and actually make it into the lineup. But now we have some rumors as to what actually happened in the trade talks, because Yandle does indeed have a no-move clause that, in order for him to be traded, would have to have been waived. Turns out, according to Nick Kypreos, he refused to waive in a 3-way trade between the Panthers, the Bruins, and the Islanders. Take a look at this article, it's on NHLTradeRumors.me. The rumor circulated that Yandle was going to be scratched to punish him for blocking a 3-way trade with his no-move clause. The Panthers ownership group is apparently unhappy with GM Bill Zito for his inability to properly trade away Keith Yandle. Zito is looking to make a culture change in Florida after being on the job just 4 months. It appears that Zito was pressured by the ownership group to force Yandle out. The idea to sit out Yandle was to punish him for blocking a 3-way trade between the Islanders and the Bruins, with Nick Kypreos providing further details on his podcast. This is what he said on the Real Kipper at Noon show a few days ago. The talk is Boston, the Islanders, maybe a 3-way trade with the Panthers, maybe Yandle ending up with the Boston Bruins was in store. I'm sure the Panthers would have to eat some money on that, but it didn't come to fruition, as it appears Yandle stood his ground. He was done. He was kicked to the curb. It was over, and then in 48 hours that guy goes back on the first power play. Now, I'm told this was all ownership-driven, that Zito needed to come in and address it. My understanding is that Yandle and his agent got an apology from his management team in Florida. So, just based off of what is said here, it appears that it was actually the guys above Bill Zito who really wanted this guy out, whether that be for the culture change, or because he is not great defensively, because he's an older guy with a big, massive contract. And according to Kypreos, it appears that a three-way trade, verbatim, involving the Bruins and the Islanders, might have even been discussed, but was vetoed by Keith Yandle. Now, Yandle does have a no-move clause, which means that any form of movement from NHL team to other NHL team, or from NHL team to AHL team, it has to be approved by Yandle himself. So, if there was a possibility that they said, hey, buddy, we've got a trade, you're going to go over to Boston, you're going to play with this squad, you're going to go over there, do your thing, and be really good because, hey, they don't have Krug anymore, they don't have Chara, they need help on defense, you want to go? He has the right to say no. And if he did say no when he got punished for it by being played on the second unit over there in the practices and having his Iron Man streak, which is the longest active in the NHL today, put in jeopardy, that's kind of whack, man. Like, I'm sorry. Not saying it's true or not, just reading what's going on here in the article, that's what appears to be the case. And if it is true, then man, that's a really weird kind of way to go about treating your players, eh? You can make a whole debate as to what's going on with the Florida Panthers, and we've seen so many different rumors and interviews and all that stuff highlighting different parts of this team. We have the whole controversy with Sergei Bobrovsky, the fact that you have Devin Levi, Spencer Knight, two very good goaltending prospects who might not even get a chance to shine in Florida because Bobrovsky is locked up for so long. You had that interview with Jonathan Huberdeau a few months ago, where he said he was unhappy with how the Panthers were performing in a very Jack Eichel kind of way. He was like, yeah, we need to be better. This team was not as good as we could be. Then you had the rumors about Alexander Barkov, how teams out there in the NHL were apparently calling up Bill Zito and asking about him over concerns that he might not re-sign when his contract expires in a few months. A few months as in like a year and a few months, not like this year. Now there's this Yandle thing, with the Iron Man streak put into jeopardy, and it actually not working out that way, so we have a happy story, or at least a happy ending to this ongoing story right now, because who knows, if it was the ownership group that was pressuring Bill Zito to go out there and trade this guy because of the money or whatever, you kind of have to call it quits after the guy says no, right? Like, come on. The guy has that no-move clause for a reason, and when you go over to where he signed the contract, hey, spoiler alert, it was you guys who signed it all those years ago in 2016. You gave this guy the right for 6 years to go out there and stick around if he chooses. Sure, it wasn't Bill Zito who did it. It was the previous ownership. I get that. But at the end of the day, it's still the hockey club that has given him that right. So to go out there and say, okay, well, you're not going to waive. Well, sorry, buddy, you're scratched now. You're going to get scratched for the first time in like, I don't know, 10 years. You're going to get scratched and you're going to have your active Ironman streak taken away from you. For Henrik Sedin, it was an injury. For Andrew Cogliano, it was a suspension. For this, it's punishment for not waiving? That's pretty whack to me, man. And of course, obviously, this is not 100% confirmed or whatever. It's just hearsay, and plus a three-way trade coming over here with the Islanders and the Bruins definitely does sound intriguing. And even further, it asks more questions as to what exactly these teams would give up to see Yandle get traded away. We haven't seen too many three-way trades in the NHL over the past few years, so having another one maybe coming to fruition would have been incredible. It's just the circumstances behind it, the way that they wanted to see him leave. So much to the point that the rumor of him actually being scratched because he refused to waive has come up. Yeah, that's really weird in my opinion. So talk to me in the comments about Keith Yandle. I've always been a fan of his game, especially offensively with the Arizona Coyotes, or excuse me, the Phoenix Coyotes. In New York, he was indeed a rental for that team that was trying to do well in the playoffs after making the finals the previous year. Yeah, they didn't go all that far, but hey, Yandle got 11 points in 19 games. He has been getting better and better in terms of the point production over the past few years, so it's very interesting to see how now, because his defensive play is not as good as his offensive game, they're in very different realms, I'll say that right here. It's very noteworthy to me how this apparent three-way trade came up and it led to the potential of an Iron Man streak being broken. So tell me in the comments what you think. If you're a Bruins fan, talk to me in the comments what you think about what you would have done in a trade like this. Islanders fans, same thing. Panthers fans, if you guys traded Yandle, what would you have wanted to get back? Obviously a defenseman, maybe, because position by position it makes sense that way, but if it's not a defenseman you want, what would you have asked for in return? Tell me in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99. and bye.